Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. I focus so much on the negativity of DC fans. Let's turn the needle over to the Marvel fans, shall we? WandaVision is finally out, and I think those of you who have seen it could at least understand. The rational fans of Marvel could understand that this one's definitely different, right? It's not what you expected. Now, you might be either on board or you might be like, what's going on? But I think it's safe to say WandaVision's not the first thing I would suggest to someone to get into Marvel. Like, this is clearly a earned show based off of years of films and growing a fandom that will basically watch whatever Kevin Feige delivers us. The reality, though, is like it's hard to really judge this show until we get the whole story, because as 3 episodes by themselves, if that was all I got, well, I would have given this show a much more negative review. The only reason I'm giving this show high marks is because I do believe, given Marvel's track record and given the teases we're getting, this will lead to something, right? Right? Famous last words, maybe? If it doesn't, then this really will be a big stinker on Marvel's hands, because as creative as it was, what's the point? Now, I know in the comics, House of M, everything, there's a lot of stuff here that could make this make sense, and that's why I'm giving Marvel the benefit of the doubt to assume it will go there, because there's a potential here to go amazing as everything cracks apart and the sitcoms stop happening and we actually start seeing why Wanda's trapping these people, or, you know, she's in a state of, you know, her own disarray mentally. She's having a breakdown after the loss of Vision. All these things that could happen. Sword is there to try and monitor and bring her out of it. It seems like clearly this show is going to a big escalation that I'm all for. We know the multiverse is happening. It's all connected, guys. Scarlet Witch is in Doctor Strange too, so it's clearly all connected. And I think this is all going to lead to a massively huge, big Marvel finale where things go crazy. So look, I'm on board. I get it. That's why I'm on board, because I think there's going to be hope. And I now that you guys have seen the show, or at least the first 2 episodes, the 3rd episode, better in that it definitely by the end starts showing you, okay, it's like finally it's like the hatch opening slightly in Lost. You're like, okay, got it. What I'm assuming is happening, but you're still gonna have a lot of questions even at the end of episode 3. I don't know how much longer we can hold out week to week. This was clearly a binge-worthy show. That said, are these episodes amazing? Look, I think they're great if we're establishing, like, sort of how do we fast track a love affair with Vision and Scarlet Witch, so when it's stripped from her again, we understand why. And hey, we did it in a cool, creative way to sort of be an homage to television of past. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I can't knock that, but I could see why a lot of fans would knock it. But so anyway, here, I want to get to this because the reviews are huge. 97% already on Rotten Tomatoes out of 100, but I mean that's high. Even the audience score is not that high. They're giving it a positive, but the critics are fawning over this in a way that's just a little confusing to me, because I mean there's not a lot to review yet. But Rotten Tomatoes is just such a stupid system because it's either yes I liked it or no I didn't like it. And I can't say whether I liked or didn't like it. I can't say I didn't like WandaVision yet because we don't know where it's headed. So it's kind of smart of them to like tease us, get it in there and get those high marks and say, see, we're certified fresh. We won. At the end of the day, those reviews could totally change as we get the full season. But I'm curious because here, as we see these reviews, let's go. I want to focus on literally 95 fresh. Let's go focus on the 6 rotten ones. Classic comedy Pistache is skillful, affectionate, and well performed, but it's not terribly imaginative. If anything, it's a little too true to the antiquated sources. It's also not very funny. I mean, I don't disagree with Mike. Mike's got Marvel fans that are watching. Do you get triggered by these comments, or can you handle this criticism? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. John Anderson of Wall Street Journal. As an exercise in cloning, it's morbidly fascinating. They're recreations of various classic shows, and their styles display both a knowledge of and deep affection for old-time TV. But what was tedious then is tedious now. Right, audiences today aren't really built for that type of show. The end product is comedically wan, the double take broad, and all the Olsen, Bettany, Han charms squeezed into tiny dabs of screen time. He's giving it a 2 out of 4. I think that's a very fair review. It's not hating on it, but at the end of the day, Roger has the guts to say, so far, it's still a negative. Now, could it earn a positive? Yes. And in fact, I think Roger's right. It's like plugging through porridge for the chocolate button at the bottom of every bowl. Oof, GQ. While it's too far early to assess the 9 episodes, 150 million gamble fully. So far, it's interestingly bad. That comes from Chicago Tribune. And Roxana, over on RogerEbert.com. Once WandaVision starts recycling the same content in each episode, it becomes difficult to ignore that the show's primary interest is playing with form rather than propelling its story forward. And you know what, Roxana? You're right on the money. I mean, that's the problem with now. It's like we're 2 in. First one and second one did feel very similar. It felt like I'm watching Bewitched or Dick Van Dyke Show. Those sitcoms do become very repetitive. It's like any procedural on network television or sitcom. I've sort of lost interest in those genres because it feels very same week to week. You're like, okay, you got to really enjoy the characters and be invested in them and their scenarios. Say, all right, where are my favorite characters going this week? And I wasn't as invested. I was intrigued. I wasn't bored yet, but it could become very boring quickly. If imagine a whole season of the Dick Van Dyke version of this WandaVision, people would not like that. That's why they're mixing up and changing the genres and adding the color. And it seems like every episode's a new decade that we're going to go through in television. But I want to focus on Roxana as a perfect example. Here she is just tweeting randomly. I made the mistake of putting pimento cheese on cheese bread and made a goodbye to my body. The sodium is taken in. You also made the mistake of giving WandaVision a low score. It begins, folks, and there's no better way to showcase this than Deadline, Dominic Patton's review. WandaVision review, Marvel's first Disney Plus is too AARP, AARP, that's like for retired people, and not enough MCU. And honestly, okay, I think it's a fair headline. Do you think that's a fair headline? Let's see what the Marvel fans think. Let's go down these comments as they start ripping him apart in the comments. This is this review of someone who knows nothing of Marvel history, 94 on Rotten Tomatoes. Suck it. Well, I was going in, but enough said. Already this review is trash, and you are not a Marvel zombie RR stan for recognizing a hater when you see one. I love the show. I'm ecstatic that Marvel made something that pisses people off like this. This and the fact that I thoroughly enjoyed the first 2 episodes tells me they're on doing something right. Look forward to it. So, Gerardo, thank you for being rational. Let's see who else. Rick, LOL, you've seen the first 3 episodes, guy. If the MCU is great at anything, it's building its greatness over time. This review is worthless. Wow, a scathing review that is nothing so much as a complaint that its subject ultimately isn't what the critic wanted. It's like going a test drive a Jeep and complaining that it isn't a Mustang. Then they should have just made a Mustang. This isn't a Mustang. It's pretty great as a Jeep. Wow, sorry, I'm not going to read all that junk, Chuck. Wow, what a clueless review. Probably the worst review I've seen ever on Deadline because he didn't gush however great the show is. It wasn't great, not even close. Thank you, Anonymous. If Dominic doesn't like it, I'm sure I will. Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? That's what he says at the end. Yeah, whenever I take the time to read something Patton writes, hopefully Mr. Patton is prepared for the wave of Marvel's. Anyway, so you get the point. It's kind of amazing that this is why you shouldn't review things until you've seen the entire show. A simple look at the trailers will show you that there's more than just the sitcom stuff. But here's a scathing review on 1/3 of the show. Disney sends us these to review, Chris. And here is his thoughts. And based off of what Disney sent us, they could have sent us the whole show to review. They didn't. And they expect us to review it when we get these links. We're critics. That's what happened. That's what I got it. That's why I posted a video. If you don't post the video, they're not going to send you the access. Don't send the access is the moral of the story for Disney if they don't want to review it. But they wanted, you know what's interesting? Like with Mandalorian stuff, they don't want to give those reviews because they knew they had something good. With this one, they knew, this was not supposed to be their first show. And I'm not trying to even be that negative on it yet. It's hard to review until we see more. But the reality is they gave us 3 because they knew we got to give them a little bit more. It's too slow of a burn. Okay, great. Show it. Because as a whole, this show might be great when it's all said and done, right? It might be great. It still might not, and in which case they sort of teased us and being hopeful, right? But let's review this worst review ever. Let's see if Dominic's far base, shall we? This wasn't supposed to be the first Marvel series, and it shows. Facts. Let's be honest about this negative review, shall we? Grafted to a premise more suited to a syndicated sitcom on TV land than the home of Mandalorian. The star debuts tomorrow on the streamer, mainly a baby boomer punchline in search of a joke, which, based on the 3 episodes that the House of Mouse provided, is another way of saying that Jack Schaefer created limited series is well within the wheelhouse of the endless setup of the Kevin Feige-run Marvel Cinematic Universe, and not in a good way. Now, with 2 Matt Shagman-directed episodes dropping on the 15th and the rest to follow, blah, 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 blah. Perhaps the promised and hyped payoff will be worth it, and this won't end up being an indulgent retooling of Three's Company, Who's the Boss, Moonlighting. again, he's warning and even being very clear. Hopefully, it doesn't result in that. And we don't know what it's going to. They just showed a new clip of her in a Modern Family style show, so it's clear they're going to keep this going for a while. How quickly will they pull out of the sitcom tropes and get into ripping the sitcom apart and showing us what's really happening? That's the debate right now. An entire season of her in various sitcoms putting people through it, and we don't even know what's going on until the very, very, very end. I will be disappointed in that. That's not what I want to see. That's too long of a slow burn for me. You got to give it to me midway through so I can be aware of what's happening and then enjoy the premise knowing what's happening. That's a failure, I think, in the show. If not, they don't want to show their cards because that's all they got. We got to hold on to it. That can be a problem. Otherwise, despite some fun performances, stark industry cameos, and a hefty homage to past generations of television, it's tiresome. More Gowling, the Agari, so far protagonists. Wow, your words are a little hoity-toity now. Another blatant example of corporate machine in motion where storytelling should be seated. Still, regardless of what critics wring their hands about or not, fans will perform their expected duty and sign up to Disney Plus, which is the true Wall Street aimed desire here. Facts. The thirst right now for Marvel is strong. Coming off a big screen drought since the blockbuster Endgame and more than a year after Disney Plus launched with the, delaying all the other big movies. Drawing from the 2019 Russo's helm flick and the last two comic sagas with the Scarlet Witch and Vision characters, WandaVision transports the cooing couple of Olsen's Wanda and Bettany's Vision to his android to suburban bliss. Sort of. Looming over it all is the fact that we know Vision died the climax of Endgame, so amidst the literally and figuratively architecture of the Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched, and Brady Bunch, it seeps out pretty quickly that all is not well in the land of picket fences and cul-de-sacs, as one would expect. Slightly confounding expectations becomes the quicksand here. For all its flights of fancy and cultural references, WandaVision breaks no new ground, and at times seems to move backwards in the Marvel small screen legacy. Look, nothing he's saying so far I feel is off base. The show lacks having learned any lessons from the urban underbelly and maturity of Netflix now shuttered Marvel shows like Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, even Daredevil. Even the Marvel TV OG, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did this kind of stuff way better with the limitations of network broadcast on ABC. Planning their PG-13 galaxy of Disney Plus and fueled by Feige's self-publicized love of old school sitcoms, that's why I guess this is happening, WandaVision tastes like the small screen white bread sprinkled with sugar. Ouch! All of which isn't much to chew on and leaves the visually impressive limited series as little more than an opening course of the forthcoming Falcon, Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Loki. After all the billions and billions of dollars in box office Marvel has made over the past 12 years, it may seem almost impossible to recall the number of times they've gotten it wrong. As a true fanboy, let me help you. There's the incoherent Iron Man 3. Facts. The insulting first season of Iron Fist. Facts. The horrible Inhumans. Facts. The second Thor movie. Yeah, he's now. I would say there's more, but he was being nice. Now, in a preliminary pass, at least, WandaVision is on that tainted list. Well, I think you're jumping the gun just to put it in the bottom yet. If what we get is what it continues to be, then I agree with you. But it's too early to put it on the list. Having said all that, and avoiding spoilers, it does have some magic up its sleeve, despite being stuck with a creaky material that will primarily land with the ARP crowd, the retirement crowd. Olsen and Manhunt Bettany turned to be quite wonderful comedic actors with precise timing around the tropes. The former already established her talents in Ingrid Goes West, which was really good. She is good in that. And later brings his best Hugh Laurie to WandaVision. New to the MCU, Catherine Hahn's delightful as the boozy neighbor who befriends Wanda. Not really beamed into the third episode, Monica Rambeau is the most obvious connection to Captain Marvel and more upcoming Phase 4 as the Aperture and Sword. WandaVision begins to open up a third of the way through its run. As I told you, the third episode with Monica Rambeau is when things do kick up a bit. Things open up and you're like, oh, okay. With all the Easter eggs on display in the first trio of episodes, those other announced Marvel participants, Kat Dennings, Randall Park, don't make appearances in the opening round. At one point in the first 3 episodes, WandaVision asked itself, is this really happening? Extensional narratives aside, yes, true believers, it is. In the words of Johnny Rotten, at least at the last Sex Pistols show with drug-addled Sid Vicious, ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Now, I think a lot of fans are going to feel that way, including this reviewer. So the comments that I read you earlier about this being a trash, worthless review proves there's toxic fans in every fandom. They're just blinded with blinders on. Look, WandaVision could end up being great. I understand a lot of Marvel fans have faith. I'm giving it faith too, based off I'm signed on to this universe. They've earned it, I think, over the years. There have been way more wins than losses. But as I told you, this is a daring, risky show. And if they don't have that big, bold ending that's going to really wow us and justify these half-hour sitcom tropes, which they're doing hardcore, it's gonna be crazy. And then I'm gonna be like, what was it for? I find it hard to believe Marvel's not gonna have this end strong. They've been hyping this one as being a crazy, weird thing. Again, it would have been nice to have Loki and Captain America and Captain Soldier come out first to give us a little bit more of a taste of what we're used to, but it wasn't in the cards. So good on them for at least giving us something. So what do you guys think now that you watch the show? What are your theories? Let's start getting spoilers. Once next week comes back, we can get even more deeper spoilers. So I can tell you, oh, did you see what, right? Did you guys, have you noticed Sword? The toaster in the beginning, the Sword logos pops up a lot and will pop up again. So stay tuned, pay attention. Let's put your theories, spoiler theories, and just thoughts down below. Do you agree? Are Marvel fans crazy? Do we think we'll see them get crazier as more stuff finally comes out? I'd love all your thoughts. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed. Sometimes they just unsubscribe you. You can also hit that bell to hit all notifications. You can smash that like button, and you can click on one of these. Thanks for watching, everybody.